Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. Okay, so first episode since Far From Home. It's been a while. Let's dive in. Today I have seen The Lion King. Finally. Quick notes. Number one, I like the cast. A lot of the recasting. It's fine. The CGI for the environment looks fantastic, and the visuals are really nice. But, and this is a pretty big but, they don't do and it's a problem in common with Aladdin too. Where, here's the thing: if you watch a Disney movie, a lot of the music is kind of what sticks out to you, not really the story or anything else. Because how much the music sticks out to you, you kind of forget that you're walking or going from place to place. A lot of times, almost entirely in a musical, or at least a Disney musical, to say the least, the music is a vehicle of exposition. It's designed to give you information in a way that doesn't make you realize that you're getting functionally an info dump. It's done in a creative way. So, like, let's take, for example, Be Prepared, which is Scar's big song in the movie, which regrettably was omitted mostly. It's exposition. It's him aligning himself with the hyenas. Can You Feel the Love Tonight, which in this movie is not taking place at night, which is an odd choice, is designed to kind of exposit and bring the audience to speed with the character development of both Nala and Simba. I just can't wait to be king. Puts you into Simba's mindset going into the elephant graveyard, so you understand why he is the way that he is, and it kind of personifies his arrogance in a way that you can see what it is. When he goes there and he gets in over his head, you have motivation as to why that happens. And because it's all done in a creative way, you kind of ignore it. That said, Aladdin had this problem too. When you do it in 2D animation, there's a lot of, you can fill the screen with a lot of really cool things. You can fill the screen with, like, Simba and Nala swinging from vines. When when Prince Ali is happening, there's tons of things all over the place. It's a very kinetic scene. Same with what was it? What's the name of the other song from Aladdin? Friend Like Me, if that's the name of the song. The one that Robin Williams sings in the Cave of Wonders. You Never Had a Friend Like Me. That's the name. That's the full name of the song. Oh my god, that was awful. There's a lot happening. They have to cut it down for a live action movie, or in this case, a very heavily CG movie that, isn't live action because it's all computer generated, but also it's photorealistic animation, I guess is what we would call this. For a movie like this, because of how quickly it can fall into the uncanny valley and kind of look really weird, they have to cut down on that. So because when you do 2D animation and everything's cartoony to begin with, we suspend disbelief watching things. So, like, when characters make these outlandish movements, or when they do things that you wouldn't ordinarily see them do, you kind of, it's part of the art form. You kind of is okay with it. And it's something that we've been okay with as people who've watched animation since the 30s, where it's like, because this isn't a real human, we can see them do outlandish things, or a real animal, we can see them do outlandish things that a real animal couldn't do, and we're not going to look weird about it. Had they done the big finish for I Just Can't Wait to Be King, if that's the name of the song, I don't remember off the top of my head. If they did the big finish with the animals and the solid color backgrounds, flashing lights, and all that stuff, it would look weird. Like, you can get a little bit more leeway because he's a genie in Aladdin, but you can't really get that in The Lion King in a meaningful way. Now here in that's one of my bigger problems with the movie. And I think that's something that Disney has to address when it comes to these live action adaptations, that when you're going to do this much music and have this much music reacting to, and people, and you're using the music as a vehicle of exposition, you got to make what we're watching at the same time interesting. Especially if you're not doing a new song. Because if it's a song we've already heard, we know the song, and we're now looking to see what you're going to do to adapt what we saw in the movies 25 years ago, and we're going to see what it looks like now in live action, well, quote-unquote live action. They don't do enough of that in any of these live action movies, really. And another thing they don't do is, and especially in a movie like this, like for the Jungle Book it'd be harder, because they have to interact with Mowgli, who's a real kid. For Aladdin it'd be harder, because everyone's live action with CG adjusting the characters and moving them how they move, and doing the outlandish, stunts and things like that, and the magic. In this movie, you had a real opportunity to do some interesting things with directing and cinematography, because it's all CGI. It's like in Star Wars, this happens every once in a while for these CGI shots, and you're like, wow, that's really cool, and then you're like, oh, wait, it's just CGI, so it kind of gets, write it off. That said, in a movie like this, it's noticeable when you don't do that. And a lot of the action, especially in the third act, with the giant fight between the lions and the hyenas, and Scar and Simba and all of that, it's very poorly lit. And I guess that's trying to get back to the same motif they had in the original. But in the original, it's 2D animated. So you can set the light as much as you want. So you can still see everything clearly, even if it is cast in shadow. You don't have that same luxury here because you have to maintain realistic lighting. And that's a big problem with this movie for that entire sequence, is that you can't tell who's who. Significance of confrontations isn't really established because you get 2 seconds where it cuts to someone else, and this is something where it's like you don't need to do the cutaway like they do in Taken, like they do in even Captain America in some of the movies, or the Avengers. It's like you can film it fluidly, and you can, like, the sequence of Scar and Simba could have been done in a fluid way that would have looked beautiful. Instead of cut, Scar's off the cliff. Because when you do that, it takes the audience out of it. But if you keep it one fluid shot, you can feel the hits more accurately and more intensely, I think. And it also gives a reason why this movie should have been remade in photorealistic CGI. And it's because, like, the movie doesn't really give you that here. Like, Aladdin didn't give you that either. None of these live-action movies are really giving you like, the only one I can make the case for that gave you a reason why it should exist, and I hate saying that, but I feel like that's something that we need to really address now, is that why should this movie exist? Why should I spend my time and money going to see this movie? And I think the only ones that really gave that are Christopher Robin, which gave a unique look at Christopher Robin later in life and how the characters impacted his life as a whole. And then, what was the other one? Maleficent, which even that isn't a straight adaptation. It's a spin-off, kind of. It's like an alternate It's like the true story of Three Little Pigs. You probably read that book as a kid, if you're around my age. It's a story. It's the telling of the story of the Three Little Pigs from the perspective of the wolf. Because the wolf's in jail because the wolf did something wrong, and because he killed the pigs, and then this is his side of the story for what happened. Then they don't exactly, like, and that's why Maleficent works. It's because it's a new story. None of these are new stories, so the movie never makes the case as to why I should see it. What is this movie doing differently from the first time that's making it worth my time to go see it? And there's really none of that here. It doesn't correct any of the pacing issues that the original Lion King had, which is something that a lot of people overlook for this movie. And it's something that's glaringly obvious here for some reason. I don't know why it's so much more obvious here now that I've seen it in photorealistic IMAX. It's so much easier to tell that the movie has severe pacing issues, where I don't know if it's not pacing as much as the story is too concise, I guess. And that's not a complaint I ever thought I would make, is that the story's too concise. But, like, because of how concise the story is, we don't really have time to establish as friends Nala and Simba in the beginning of the movie. We're kind of told by the movie they're friends, and I'm like, okay, let's just go with it. And then he runs off immediately, because then the next scene is Mufasa's death, and then everything after that is very choppy and jumpy. It moves from scene to scene very quickly, but in a way that's way too quick for us to establish any kind of meaningful connection to the movie as it's happening. And then there's like a sequence that we see in the trailer briefly at the end of the first trailer with Timon and Pumbaa singing, and it's like, I don't remember that being in the original movie. It's actually just been brought out immediately. I didn't think that Billy Eichner had such a good singing voice. I was surprised. That said, there was a certain comedic element that was missing from his performance as Timon, only because Timon wasn't a good singer, but he thought he was, and that comes out in the performance. And he's overdramatic, too. And he doesn't really bring that to the role. And as long as we're talking about complaints about the singing, I think it was a bad idea to bring in Beyonce to do one song. It felt like it was a weird waste of her, and I feel like they probably could have done a few more takes on her solo in Can You Feel the Love Tonight. She has a solo in that, both her and Simba, where it's kind of an introspective moment of them looking in at themselves and, trying to set up where they are, and it kind of sets up their headspace for the song. I don't think the way she did it, I don't like the breathiness that she does that section with. Like, if you listen to the original, who I don't remember who sang it originally, but when she did it, everything kind of flowed together in a way that felt really, like, I don't know if organic's the right word, but it all kind of flowed together in kind of one concise thing. But Beyonce keeps breaking it up. Like, each kind of thought is its own phrase, and it doesn't flow into the next thing. There's like a pause for her to take a breath. I don't know if that's just a new style. I don't really like the way that they did that, but, what are you going to do? That's at least my concerns with this movie. I think if Disney's going to continue doing these live-action adaptations of movies that are mostly anthropomorphic animals, like if they ever do the Aristocats or if they do something like that, they really got to make an effort to stylize it in a way, and you can't really do that in this time. Like, when they do Cruella with Emma Stone, I think my ultimate problem with that is going to be you're losing that animation style that was prevalent then, and that drawing style that was, like, I believe it was Chuck Jones who did that. I'm going to look it up. But I don't think that they... Yeah, it was Chuck Jones. But, like, something like that, it's like, doing photorealistic versions of all of these movies is taking away an element of the original creativity of it. These movies all had a distinct tone, feel, and they all felt different. Like, if you watch Sleeping Beauty, the art style looks like it's lifted out of a, it looks like it's lifted out of, stained glass, and it's incredible to look at, and that's lost. Winnie the Pooh is designed to look like a storybook, and to an extent they try to maintain that the characters are stuffed animals in the movie, but again, kind of lost. Like the look of Aladdin, the look of Aladdin compared to the look of Hercules, which came out in the same decade, Mulan, with a very heavily stylized movie that's not going to translate well to live action. And I think that this is indicative of a larger problem, is that they're remaking these movies to get people to cash in on nostalgia, because nostalgia is something that sells now. The fact that they can remake this movie and then it's going to go out and make $180 million in its opening weekend, you are seeing the exact same movie you saw 20 years ago with a new cast. And people paid $11.99 to go see it opening weekend. I don't know. It's like I know it sells, and I know they're gonna keep doing it because it keeps selling. But I feel like part of me feels dirty for the fact that this keeps happening, and we're not really trying to. I don't know if we can stop it, but I think that the the ultimate problem with these is that they need to stop remaking these movies because you're losing something in each of them. There's stuff missing. And it's not story-wise, it's not dialogue, it's not acting, because they're still bringing in the A-list talent for these movies. It's the art of it is missing. So if you haven't seen The Lion King yet, I think this is going to be one of the few movies that I say don't see in theaters. I don't think it's worth wasting the time. It's 2 hours long. I don't think it's worth spending the time going to the theater, seeing this movie, because I think that, how much better is it going to be watching it on Blu-ray in your house when you rent it from a Redbox, or watching it on Disney Plus if you get that, or just not watching this and watching the version that already is out. The what's it called? Watching the original animated one from '94. How much of it is lost? You're getting more from rewatching the old one than from watching this remake. And with that, we'll wrap up with this for today. Tomorrow we will be back with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's new movie. He has the audacity to have us make us sit through 2 hours and 45 minutes of movie. I say, having seen Avengers Endgame 4 times in theaters. We'll be back with that tomorrow. Have a great night.